in association with Combat Sport Collective, clothing for those who love combat sports. You're listening to Straight to the Point, Uncut. Welcome to the latest episode of Straight to the Point, Uncut. I'm your host, Ciaran Gibbons. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at STTP Uncut. You can like our Facebook page, and you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. All our episodes are also available to download from all the usual podcasting hosting sites, and you can also check out all the episodes on YouTube, and there's a few little bits of extra content on the YouTube channel as well. Today I'm delighted to be joined by an old army friend of mine, Micky Yule. Micky and myself are both members of 9 Parachute Squadron Royal Engineers. We served together in Bosnia, and we are also on the 9 Parachute Squadron boxing team together. When I left the army in September 99, Micky stayed on and became a career soldier. Thanks for coming on the show, Micky. Really good to see you. Let's get straight to the point. In 2010, you were deployed to Afghanistan. At this stage of your career, you were a staff sergeant. Before we talk about the incident that took place in March of 2010, how's the tour generally going up until that point?
Good to see you, mate. A long time no see. It was a cheeky time in Afghanistan. I'm sure, as you were probably watching on the news, 2009 kicking off big time in Afghanistan. 2010 was no different. I was on a summer tour. Unfortunately, there was a lot of people getting flown back into Royal Wootton Bassett. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of deaths. There was a lot of injuries. And it was no different when I flew in there. I flew in the May. As you'll know, I was like a combat engineer expert. My background was in demolitions, normally blowing stuff up, but also in detecting IEDs, which are the explosive, improvised explosive devices. So I was part of a search team. I was a senior NCO in the search team. So just strangely a normal tour for Afghan. It was my second tour, but definitely really kinetic. There was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of IEDs hurting the lads. There was a lot of jobs for us in searching and trying to find them and destroy them. And also for the infantry lads, there was a lot of contacts. It was just shit going on every day. Every hour it seemed like there was something else happening. So we were certainly busy. We had to have our wits about us. And as you know, it's absolutely boiling over there, which was a killer for me and my Scottish skin. But I was enjoying it. It was really good. It was, as you know, it's what we train to do. Sometimes we can get bored when we're back in barracks, and a bored soldiers get themselves in trouble, don't they, if you've been in the barracks too long. So it was great to be back out there, and I was enjoying my tour. It was a good time. I had some great lads about me, and it was just sort of carry on normal business, really.
What would have been your day-to-day routine in Afghanistan around that time?
So I was a senior NCO. I would go in and normally after having scuff, I'd go into orders that evening. Depending who we were attached to, normally it'd be an infantry company. We'd get the orders for the next again day. If there was intelligence about a high threat of IEDs, then we would lead that patrol with infantry satelliting us to give us protection, and we'd try and identify and either bring back the IEDs, or we'd probably just destroy in place and then move on and clear the route. If it was a job for the infantry lads that didn't have a real high intelligence of IED threat, then we'd just support them, as in we'd be reactive to if anything kicked off, because where we were in Afghanistan, Helmand province, it was absolutely seeded with IEDs. Every time you stepped out of the compound or the patrol base, the ID threat was massive. So I'd have an idea what the infantry lads were up to that next again day, and we would plan around that. Or if it was a high-risk search patrol, then me and the lads, I'd get together with my corporal and we'd plan the next again day. But day to day, there was just constant jobs.
So what would your procedures be when, let's just say, an infantry patrol identified an IED on the ground? What's your procedures?
So a lot of them were trained to deal with it, because that was also our jobs, that we would, in the patrol base or in the compounds, make sure that the infantry lads, who were search trained to a level, were keeping all their drills up to scratch. So they could deal with a level of IED, and it would normally be if they would mark and leave it. If it wasn't a route that needed to be cleared, if they uncovered an IED, they could either mark and leave it and just carry on, just keep away from it, or we could get called in and we could just blow it up, or we would call in ATO, which is the ammo tech, because what we were doing at that time is we were trying to bring them back to Camp Bastion, because we wanted the DNA, we wanted fingerprints, we wanted anything that we could use, that we could start identifying the guys that were making it, because it was just continual. There's a reason why nobody wins in Afghanistan. Go back in history. They kick everybody's arse eventually. And it doesn't matter if you've got all the American air power or the British air power, probably all half American army were there, we were all there. Do you know what? They always win, because they'll outlast you, and it means it's a strange thing, but they'll just sit on the mountains and watch you, and they'll go, we're here for 20 years. How long are you here for? How much are you willing to take? And you're talking about the boxing. It's like a crazy boxing match. How much pain are you going to be willing to take to win this fight? Because there's a level of pain before government go, nah, too many people dying against the benefits of what they want. And I always got that feeling, and they're brave fucking soldiers, man. From about the age of 5, they're fighting, and they know what it means to defend their country. And just a bunch of white dudes or Western guys turning up and strolling into their village, they fight for it, and they'll fight till the death, and they'll do whatever it takes to win. So you've got to respect that. A lot of people go, nah, they're cowards, and they'll do what they do to win, and that's the reason why they do win. So, I mean, it's finding the IEDs for us. It's either uncovering them and bringing them back, or sometimes when the infantry lads got hit, and I mean, maybe one of the lads stood on an IED, it's reacting to that, because straight away they'll call in the Chinook, the MERT, the Medical Emergency Response Team. Somebody's getting Kazi-backed out, hopefully still with it. And then we would go, because the minute we find one IED, we're in a minefield situation. There's always more than one. We'd definitely be there to try and clear that area, recover any equipment, because obviously we didn't want any of the bad guys getting their hands on anything that was too secret, maybe what we were trying to use to block them, using remote control initiations, etc. So that was it. It was constant. It was slightly different from Iraq, where I think they were a little bit more keen to have what we would call a normal sort of attack. They would attack you. There would be a bit more gunshot, and there was IEDs in place. But definitely in 2010, if you were out there on a summer tour, IEDs were the massive threat, and they were the reason guys were coming back either dead or seriously injured.
So leading up to the incident where you were hurt, can you just tell us how that day started and how it progressed?
A normal day, mate. I remember it was red fucking hot. It was boiling. We were carrying, you know, this a shitload of weight. We had a lot of water with us that day, because it was going to be a long patrol. There was a intelligence risk of IEDs definitely lay on the patrol. We need to make sure we were going to clear that route. And unfortunately for us, what we started doing, and you'll know this, and there's people will say it's right or wrong, but we were really working on the hearts and minds. We were trying to get the villagers to be on side with us. But I always recognise their point of view, that if you've got someone from the Taliban just sitting on a hill watching how the villagers react to their enemy, us guys, you can't be too friendly, because these are the guys that are going to come after we leave and possibly do something to your family. So I never gave a shit if, when we entered the village, if the village elder was really like aggressive, just non-compliant. If he's non-compliant and you sort of smelt that you aren't going to get a good reaction from him, just take it. It sounds bad, but just take it that he's going to be a bad guy. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got bigger things to think about. We were coming through that village. The bad guys sitting on the mountain are just going to come down when we leave. So every time we approached a village, we always suspected that it was going to go wrong. But the hearts and minds, we started telling them on this specific route. It was called Route Trident. It was trying to connect up, I think, all the way down to Kandahar. Just a clear route, a non-IED route that we could start using. But we had to clear and give compensation to certain farmers who were coming through their village, or if we were coming near their properties. So they sort of knew where we were coming. And the hit rate that we were taking on that Route Trident was just terrible, because the fuckers knew where we were coming. Do you know what I mean? So it wouldn't matter if you had a sit down with a village elder and he promised you from his heart to you, yeah, nothing's happening here, nothing. Fucking someone get blown up the next again dead. So we were on Route Trident. We had obviously infantry lads giving satellite support. We had another few lads that were going to push on with us that day. And we were just cracking on. We'd done a lot of compound searching. We had to go up and over the walls a lot, which was always a danger point for us. Pretty easy to do your searches through the fields, but once you come into the villages and the compounds, it was really tricky. And we were just pushing towards the end of our patrol. We didn't have too far to go, but it was getting into the cheekiest part of the day. We knew that the intelligence was through the roof for IEDs in that area, and we had only found, I think, one that day. Now, the most we found in a day was 6, and I don't know if it sounds a lot to some people, but that's 6 fucking scary situations. That's 6 occasions where you or your mates just about die. And I'm the senior patrol on the patrol, so I'm generally towards the back. The guys at the front, you know, the younger privates or sappers, the guys that have got the actual detectors, they're the ones that are really at the coalface of these IEDs. And we had found a lot previous days, but we hadn't found, I think we had found one that day. And not that you want to find a lot, but you know that there should be there. So when are they going to come? Do you know what I mean? When are they going to fucking find them? Have we missed any? I hope we've not missed any, because anything behind us, I'm saying as a senior on the patrol, is clear. So you should be able to walk down that and you'll be a freak. I wouldn't advise it, like, but you should be able to, because everyone behind us is clear. We've searched it and we hadn't found as much as we wanted. I fucking could just, it was getting towards the end and you're just like, where are these fucking IEDs? Or have we maybe got the intelligence slightly wrong that day, whatever. And then, yeah, boom, fucking left foot stood on a buried IED. And some people always think that, why didn't you see it? And I'm further back in the patrol or whatever. But there's a reason why these guys can blow up fucking our armored vehicles. And there's a reason why they were getting a big hit on definite foot patrols, because you can't see the fucking things. They're buried at night, they're camouflaged up, and then the hot sun bakes it. And you could be walking down, and we had certain equipment that would detect the IED, or more specifically, would take get a metal hit. So it would get a hit on a bit of metal that was within the IED, or maybe the copper that was going to connect to make the circuit. But you know, they were getting sharper and sharper on how they were building these things and making them. Anyway, I fucking stood on one, and I knew straight away, and it's a weird situation, I knew I hadn't been shot, because on that tour I'd seen people get shot. It's not a nice thing, but the impact was too fucking much. And I certainly wasn't shot from below the fucking surface. I knew I wasn't shot from below it, and I just felt like the ground had opened up, and I'd just been whacked over the head with a sledgehammer, which was obviously the blast wave goes through you. You stand on it and it goes through you, and that's the reason why if you can open your eyes after at any point, you're the luckiest man in the world, because sometimes some of the guys, when they open their eyes, and depending on how big the blast was, do you know what I mean, it can get not a nice situation for anybody. But just as much pain as you can imagine standing on a bomb. Do you know what I mean? People sometimes go, oh, what was it like? And I just, what do you think it was like? I've stood on an IED, my left leg is gone, disappeared, fucking, it's not there, which is a weird thing. Certainly not like anything where you look over and your leg's over there. The blast has took it, red mist, wherever it's gone, it's gone. It's sort of droplets in the air, really. And then my right leg, which it was funny when I was watching the Game of Thrones last scenes when the Army of the Dead were coming. If you watch that Army of the Dead on Game of Thrones, you'll get an idea what my right leg was looking like. I've never ate a pork rib since. I'll say that much about it. Pretty bad, man. It was visually worse than my left leg. Left leg was just gone. It was pissing blood, and I was in a lot, as much pain as you can imagine. But my right leg was there, and there was just stuff hanging that you knew if you moved, it was going to come off. So I'm now the senior NCO in the patrol, and you'll know this, Ciaran. My full screws got affected with this. Everybody around me, I don't just get blown up and everybody turns around and go, oh, what's happened with Micky? It's complete fucking chaos. There's a bomb went off in the middle of the patrol.
Sorry, Micky, to interrupt you. Were you the only person injured by the initial blast?
Yeah. Well, everybody got a little bit, but once they sorted themselves out, luckily we were enough away from each other, because that was a big fear of mine when I eventually did open my eyes. I thought, fuck, how big was that, and where is everybody else in relation to me? But I soon worked out just by the voices I could hear, because there's a lot of shit. Your hearing's gone, your senses are gone. You don't really know you just know you're in the shit. And then I started seeing faces coming towards me, because what I didn't know at the time, it just sort of breaks everything as you go through you. So I've lost both my legs. I broke my pelvis front and back. I broke my left arm. My right arm is hanging off because I had it on the pistol grip. And it's just sometimes when the rifle goes, it'll take your arm with you or your hand. A lot of triple amputees will be because the weapons took their hand with them as it flies through the air as like a projectile. And I couldn't sit up. And I just couldn't work it out. And it was probably because I had a lot of internal injuries, just from the pressure difference, just that instantaneous pressure difference. And then I had a snapped pelvis. So I eventually got to where I was going and could see what was happening with my legs. And to tell you the truth, the lads were on me in a second, which is crazy, because we had hammered this medical training. Every time we had an afternoon off, medical training. We were hearing and we were sometimes seeing bad stuff happen. And our reaction to something going wrong within our patrol was going to save us on the day. And hopefully it never happened. But obviously when it happened to me, you're in the shit, and I'm just bleeding out. There's too many open wounds. Obviously from the legs are pissing blood, my hands just everything bleeding, and the people were dying from loss of blood, because there was sometimes from a blast injury, there's just too many wounds for a couple of guys to try and patch up before we get all the specialists in. And I was really worried. I was just looking and I thought, it's too much blood. This blood needs to stop. And I'm not talking, let the guys get together and I've probably got a minute to stop this fucking blood, because I am emptying out. So my fucking life is emptying into the sand of Afghanistan, the one place I don't want to fucking die. And the lads, remember, it was some of the junior guys on and the whole patrol with me, the two youngest lads in the team, and they're coming to me. And if you ever have the experience, if you think you're in the shit, just look at the guys who are looking at you, and you'll know, because they started crying, and I thought, fuck, fuck, because they know they have there's two things going to happen. There's nothing in between. They're either going to save me or I'm going to die, and it's going to happen in 60 seconds. And I'm praying to God that they fucking listen to my medical training bullshit brief that I gave them probably 5 days before. But you know what? They nailed it. They got the tourniquets on. They had to stop the bleeding. They got the tourniquets on. They pulled them tight, which was, the pain was just crazy, because a lot of people, when you're trying to stop bleeding, might try and go find the wound and go maybe 2 inches above it and then pull it tight. But when you've been blown up, the wounds don't end. So you just need to get a tourniquet and you just need to pull it tight where it is. And if that might be in a little bit of a wound, well, tough shit, it gets pulled tight. So the blood didn't stop, but it eased off. They got like they turned the tap off a bit. But I was sort of coming in and out of conscious. I was really worried that I could feel myself losing consciousness. But because I'd been in the army so long, I could also see the blood. And maybe I wasn't losing, maybe it was just my life going at me. So you think, I was absolutely trying to stay awake. I thought, if I stay awake, I won't die. Which is a weird thing to say, even though I wanted just to lay back. I just wanted to have like 2 minutes to myself, because I was just getting weaker and weaker. And I thought, no, you just stay awake, because if you can stay awake till the Chinook comes in, I knew they guys would save me, because I had seen guys go in the back of that Chinook, and I thought when I got back to the compound that I would get told that they had died, and I got back to the compound and told they had lived, and I thought, fucking hell, how the hell did they save them? So as long as I got to the Chinook, I would be all right. And I got Kazi back. The lads lifted me, dragged me, scraped me, whatever way they could, and they got me back. And the Merc came in, which was the Chinook, with all the best surgeons and medics on the world on the back of this thing, just saving people we were cut in half. And then whenever I got on there, I never woke up for another week. I was in a coma.
So your last memory was getting on this Chinook?
The last thing I remember was the heat and the aviation fuel. And I don't know if they put me out or I actually just relaxed, because I was shitting myself that I was going to die before it turned up. I needed that Chinook to land and drop its tailgate. And it was the last thing I remember, the tailgate getting dropped. And I don't know if I then passed out or if they maybe gave me some drugs just to get me out so they could start treating me. But I never woke up for a week. And I woke up in Queen Elizabeth Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham with no legs.
Obviously, you wake up. What's your initial thoughts? What's your initial reaction? Can you recall what had happened to you?
But the first thing I could recall is having the craziest dreams you could ever imagine in the coma. And what it turned out was they were slowly easing off the medication to try and bring me out of the coma. And I was finding myself getting my senses back, and then that would go. And what turned out was, as they were bringing me out, my vitals would be all over the place, and they'd have to put me back in the coma for maybe a couple of days. So I had these crazy memories from being in the coma. And then when I eventually come out, I remember the doctor coming in, to tell me the injuries I had sustained. But I knew my legs were gone. A lot of lads were getting knocked out and waking up in Birmingham and having no recollection, and then looking down and having no legs. And I think it was strangely better for me that I could recall what had happened, and I didn't need him to tell me. It wasn't going to be a shock. He wasn't going to tell me something I didn't know. I could look down the bed. There was no lumps in the duvet where there should be legs, and it's a weird sort of thing, but there just wasn't any objects on the duvet or any shapes where my legs should be. So I didn't. It sounds mad. I didn't give a shit about looking. I sort of, I just had enough. My hand was still there, which thank God. I thought my hand. The last thing I seen my hand, it was hanging off, and they saved my hand. It was my right hand. I always remember. But it was crazy because I had broke both arms and this hand was hanging off. So I'm in these sort of pulley system like that. I had a external fixation, which is the metal poles coming out my pelvis. And I've got no legs. And I had a big cut down my stomach where they had opened me up to do my sort of internal, I don't know, checks. And I had a lot of internal bleeding. And I just thinking going, what the fuck, man? Like, can literally, and I felt like I'd been blown up. People go, what does it feel like? I've been blown up. I've been ran over. I've got to my feet. I've been ran over, and I've been ran over about 10 times. Sitting there and just in this medicated, crazy haze, thinking, what the fuck? What has happened? Man, John, just looking. Couldn't speak because I had all the tubes down my throat and that, but just head spinning, not really knowing what's going on. A lot of family coming in. You can see they're upset. You're feeling bad because you've made them upset because and you sort of have this blame thing about, oh, you wanted to go to Afghan and look what you've put them through. But do you know what? I was alive. Too many of my mates come back dead. I was alive. I was still there. My family had something to cry over. They were crying over my injuries. They weren't crying because I was dead. So there was a small bonus in the whole thing.
I have heard people saying in the past when they've had horrific injuries, not necessarily from the time in the military, but another walks of life, that it's almost like an out-the-body experience. I mean, what was that the case for you? And it's almost you get, I think it described as like a false memory. They remember back to something that happened, whereas actually it may not have been 100% accurate. It's just they create this memory in their mind of what they thought happened.
Yeah, I think every time you try and remember something, you sort of change that memory. But I was having the PTSD or mental health sort of the dreams I was having. It was just the minute I closed my eyes, I was back patrolling, and I couldn't get this dream to stop. And then I felt like I was conscious, not even dreaming, having the same thoughts. And I don't know if it's a medicated state or if I was just maybe dropping in and out a little bit, but just continually looking down the track where I got blown up and having all these choices to go different ways or make different decisions, or even cut the patrol and go, that's it, lads, for today. Let's mark up there. And I knew I'd been blown up, but in this haze in the stream, I always kept walking. And my head was screaming, saying, stop, stop. And I would never stop. And it would be like, I don't know if you can remember, like the old kettles or the pressure cookers, and it would go, ee. The closer I got, it was louder. And then I'd always wake up or I'd come out of it just before. But I would never not walk. It was, and John, I had those dreams for about 2 years. It was just a really uncomfortable time, but the coma, just crazy. I was convinced it sounds weird. I was convinced I was dead when I was in the coma, and I thought, wait, what is this? Is this it? You know what I mean? Because I keep on coming out and then coming back in, and I could hear voices. It's a thing where they say when you're in a coma, you're hearing maybe your first thing to come back. I could hear stuff, and it must have been when they were trying to reduce the medication, and then that hearing would go, and I could never work out what was going on. But it definitely quite mind-blowing, all this sensation and the memories and the flickering of stuff that goes through your mind after that level of trauma.
Have you spoken to the guys who were on the patrol with you? What they recalled from the incident?
Well, the lads come and visit me when they come back for tour. This is the thing, they were back on patrol in 24 hours. And do you know what, they had such a tough tour. Everybody had a tough tour over there, but they were involved in an incident with a good pal of mine who was our ATO. So he was like a real valued member of our team, and he died 2 weeks after I had been injured on a different task. Obviously, just another crazy complex search, and he died. And it was my team who had to go through that whole thing again with his body. So you say there's probably about a 10-man team there. One's come back as a double amputee and one's dead. And I know there was way worse scenarios than that over there, but that was like a general thing for being out on the ground every day, dealing with IED. It was not uncommon for that to happen. So actually, when the team come back, maybe I never caught up with them until 6 months. And I had 6 months of being around other guys who'd been injured in hospital, being able to speak about it. And the weird thing is, when they come back, I knew that they hadn't been talking about it. And I was looking at them, which is weird. I've got no legs. That's what they're looking at. But I'm looking at them going, your head's fucked. One, because you recovered this big, bald tattoo guy who was your senior. You've seen my legs. Do you know what I mean? You saved my life. But what you've seen that day, you shouldn't see it, because I know it's not part of our job, but shit happens and they dealt with it. You then dealt with a death 2 weeks later. That's on top of finding countless IEDs and the contacts that they would have had to deal with. So where's their head at? And we talk about mental illness and PTSD now. Who's helping them? They never went to Headley Court. 2000, it seems to be all the fashion now. We've got mental health PTSD champions everywhere. And the thing that annoys me is a lot of these are senior officers. So to me, I go, well, you were in the army when I got injured in 2010. Nobody had nothing. Nobody was speaking about PTSD when I got injured. We just talked amongst ourselves. We weren't getting any therapy for PTSD. When we got to Headley Court, which was like zombie land, you know, in every injury in the world, from a single amputee to a gunshot wound to the head, and then you got triple amputees, spinals, double amputees, everything in between. We were just speaking amongst ourselves. When people were crying at night, we'd go and talk amongst us. And I look at a lot of these champions now and go, you were a sergeant major then. You weren't opening your mouth. You weren't sticking up for us. But now it might be an indent in a CV. Oh, now you're all over it. Do you know what I mean? Now it's all fashionable now. But you were still in a command role back then, and you didn't do nothing. You kept your mouth shut, and you just left everybody to struggle through it. And obviously, you lose lads along the way to different stuff with that. But definitely, when I seen the lads who saved me, I was like, man, these guys need help just as much as me. And if they don't get it, then things will go wrong.
It might sound a stupid question, but did you have a sense of overwhelming gratitude to them, or did you want to? Did you still have your senior NCO head on, where you wanted to look after them as much as they were concerned for you?
Obvious gratitude, especially to the two lads. I know everybody else was dealing with, because the minute someone gets blown up, that causes confusion, and that's normally when the enemy attacks. So when I just say I'm talking about the two guys that treated me, everybody else was dealing with the situation, looking for we're now in a minefield for them. I'm in the middle of it, bleeding to death, but you've got guys that are on the armoured vehicles with the jimpies going, they're opening up on anything that sort of moves, because that's unlucky. If you tell us there's no IEDs there, and then one of the lads get blown up, the shit just goes down a wee bit, innit? Sometimes stuff happens, man. But so they're dealing with everything they're dealing with. So I'm looking at these two with the gratitude, but I'm also thinking the corporals organised that. Like, who's called in the Chinook to come and get me? Who's organised the Kazivac? Who's done everything? You can just think about it forever. But because of, I knew the tour they had after I got injured. I knew that actually within their minds, I wasn't the only really, really bad situation they had. And I remember saying, is anybody talking? And you know what we're like, man. We never, maybe now we would. We never talked back then. And it's strange, they were just cracking on with work. And then they wonder why they're drinking too much. And they wonder why their relationships are breaking down. And they're just fucking off trying to get promoted. And they'll sign off and stuff like that. So there was gratitude. There was just an encouraging, trying to encourage them to also try and, if they needed to speak without trying to force it down their necks. And it was just sometimes not a lot of words, no, just looking and nodding and just an appreciation of what went through that day.
For people who've never been in the army, they might not understand the role of a sergeant or staff sergeant like you. And I know a long time ago, you're quite an imposing figure. You're a very big guy. You're a very confident guy. I know a lot of youngsters would have looked up to you. And then psychologically for them to see you in such a state would probably have had a negative psychological effect on them.
Yeah, and I think that absolutely. And the strange thing I always had on my head, so we were doing these combat medic lessons every time, and everybody has to be trained up to a really good level. In my head, I thought, everybody's trained, but when it goes down, I'm going to sort this out. Because as a senior NCO, I was absolutely on my medical training. It was my bread and butter. And I knew that everybody was trained, but I was going to make sure no one fucking died. Now, when you're lying there with no legs, you can't do nothing. You've got 2 broken arms, a broken pelvis. And you're thinking, fucking, I have let these guys down now. It's a strange thing, but normally the young lads at the front got hit. That's the facts. These 18-year-olds were coming back with no legs. And I've got hit, and I've come back. And you know what? The training kicked in. And I'm glad it did, because it saved my life. But everybody performed. But yeah, you sometimes think, man, just if I hadn't put them through that, do you know what I mean? But then I know what happened the rest of the tour, so it certainly wasn't the only bad situation they had to deal with.
And I'm right in saying as well, I think, Micky, that to get through tours of duty like that and incidents like that, you always think it's going to happen to somebody else rather than to you. Would that be fair in saying? Or is that the mentality you've got to have?
No, you certainly don't overthink. You don't go out every day thinking you're going to. I think it's in the back of your mind, but if you overthink it and it starts affecting your judgment, then you probably got more chance of getting injured or something bad happening. It was always there, and the thing is, you can hear it. You can hear. We could be on patrol, and I would hear. I knew an IED blast. I could identify it with the smallest bit of hearing. It's that double. Boom, boom, do you know what I mean? And I'd just wait on the radio. And then you'd hear the chaos coming from one of the patrols that were maybe 2 k's away from you. And it's a horrible thing that when, if you're at a level of hierarchy and you've got the radio, you'll hear it. And I've heard some horrible things on the radio of others dealing with situations. So sometimes it is what it is. We were trained for it. It was a bad time for everybody over there, but we got through it. You know.
At what point in hospital, once all the medication wore off, did you start to take stock of your personal situation and how you were going to move forward with your own life?
Well, quite quickly, really. I knew before I got out of intensive care. So I started setting myself little goals. We had a whole ward maybe even 2 wards of injured soldiers. The most severe was in intensive care. And when I was in intensive care, I only wanted to get up with the lads on the ward because I knew that we'd have a bit of banter there, and I needed to get out of intensive care because there were so many alarms going off all the time. And actually there was still people dying because we might have got everybody back, but there was, and it might sound a bit crazy, but there was still people dying to the 2 beds down from me. And I didn't want to get away from them as individuals. I just wanted to get to the fucking ICU because I didn't want to die. And I knew that being out of there was reducing my chances of dying. And I would get up with the lads. So I knew straight away, I was combat engineer. My expertise was in demolitions. I wasn't going to do that again. It was never going to happen. I was worried about, and I know friends that have got spinal injuries that are in wheelchairs, and there's nothing they can do about it. But I didn't want to be in a wheelchair if I could help it. I wanted to work out how the hell I was going to get walking again. Because I had seen lads on prosthetics just because of the previous tours, guys coming back as amputees. So I needed to get back up to the ward, and I got up to the ward, and then you see just the level of crazy injuries that are there, and you think, geez, I might have got off this a little better than I thought, because you've got a triple amputee to the right of you in the room, you've got a guy who's got a facial injury to the left of you, and you're sort of sitting there with a couple of broken arms and internal injuries and broken pelvis and no legs, and thinking you've got off lightly. And as long as you can knuckle down here, we can get going again. Do you know what I mean? But you need to start digging deep. And I used to say, I've done a lot of talks before, and I say the hardest course the Army's ever created is the course that when you've been cut in half and you have to try and mentally and physically get walking again, because there's nothing tests you. And it's not about always being positive and motivated, because you know, when you're that low, it's impossible to stay motivated and actually positive. And there's nothing wrong with being a miserable shit and totally unmotivated, but still trying to walk. And people might go, oh, you're not really, just leave it. Today, I'll walk, but I'll walk a miserable fucker. Or today, I'll do my rehab, but I've got no motivation, so don't even ask for it. Because you know what? I'm pissed off because I've got no legs, right? I'm pissed off because my career's gone. So I'll still walk. I'm still accountable to walk, but you're not getting it with a smile on my face today. And I was accepting more and more that it's just a grind, man. It's tough. It's mentally tough when you're trying to just accept you're disabled, because you'll know, we both done P Company and jumps courses when we were 18. We went into this place in Aldershot where just you had the slightest physical chink and you would be brought up for it immediately in front of everybody. And you couldn't have that. And now I'm sitting there disabled. And I didn't really associate having no legs with being disabled. And you have to accept, you go, do you know what, I'm disabled. And it's not that bad. Why is this black cloud about being disabled? Because we can still crack on. We're just going to have to crack on differently. And slowly I was accepting that. And I had the best people around me, because when I was in hospital and when I went to do rehab, there were so many people getting blown up and shot that there was guys 3 weeks ahead of me, as in got blown up 3 weeks ahead of me. There was actually guys there who had been blown up that I had went to the incident after they'd been blown up and recovered their equipment, which is nuts. So they'd go, I say, when did you get blown up? So, oh, that date. Where about? Oh, outside that compound. And I go, all your shit. Sometimes when I say all your shit, we've picked up stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it would be a weird situation, but they were ahead of you, so you'd go, right, I need to catch him up. There's a guy 6 months ahead of me. He's bloody walking. Right, So there's my goal, 6 months walking like him. There's a guy 9 months and he's just signed out to go to the pub. So there we go. That's where I need to be in 9 months. There's a guy rock climbing, there's a guy going water skiing. So I'm surrounded strangely by these highly motivated people with some of them a lot worse injuries than me. So why should I keep on being miserable and feeling crap and feeling like I've let down everybody and feeling that I've got no life left? You've just got a different life and we need to get going here and we need to get moving quick. So I found that in the hospital and I found that quickly being amongst the lads who had been injured before me.
What was the full extent of your injuries, Micky?
So to date, I've probably had more than 80 operations.
880.
80, and that's not a lot compared to some of the lads. I stopped counting at 80, so it's probably more than that because it was just getting fucking ridiculous to tell you the truth. If you imagine when you're in intensive care, I was in intensive care for I think 2 weeks. You're having an operation every day. Once you go up to the ward, you'll have an operation, they'll check the wounds, you'll have a day rest and an operation, check the wounds. I was having an operation every 3 days up in the ward and I was there for 8 weeks. And then only when you're fit enough for them to discharge you at the hospital because they needed the beds. The guys were still coming in. They needed the beds. So you'd get discharged to Headley Court. You still had planned surgeries for maybe 2 years. My last surgery was, I got blown up in 1st July 2010. My last surgery was 2 years ago. So that was up to 8 years post-injury. And I've still got injuries sort of in the book, surgeries. I've just sort of not got time for them to do it yet. Like there are things that, it'd be like changing the wheels on your car when you see them going low. I need to change them, but I'll change them when I'll have these surgeries when it fits me. You know, it's just I need them, but they're just not fitting in at the moment. But yeah, so double amputation above the knee, cracked pelvis, internal injuries. I had what was called blast lung, where I think your lung collapses and gets full of the, you know, the hot high pressure stuff. I had a compression on my back. I broke both my arms. This hand was hanging off, multiple breaks and fingers, loads of like just skin grafts, and then had obviously a severe, really severe concussion. I don't know, maybe worse than a concussion, but like a severe concussion. And then I had a lot of infection, just problems, because they pack a lot of these IEDs with just stuff that is not going to be easy to heal and not good for wounds. So, but actually all of that, just bog standard. If you stand on an IED, that was sort of, if you come away as a single amp, maybe you were lucky. If you were a triple amp, maybe you were a little bit unlucky. But no, the minute you can open your eyes and you're not coming back and being repatriated, then you're definitely lucky.
Or what did you envision for yourself going forward in your life?
So once we got to Headley Court, which was where it was the main rehab centre for all the injured soldiers, and it was this sort of crazy busy place where just every injury you could ever imagine was there, but being treated and being progressed and giving people their lives back. So when I got there, I was put immediately into the double amputee group. So there was a single amputee group. You just got segregated like that into your injuries, just because I was a double above knee. So I didn't have any kneecaps. So to learn to walk without kneecaps is just, if you could be a below knee, that's just an amazing. All right, you've lost your foot or your ankle. Times are a little bit shit, but they can be worse. Once you start losing your knees, even the best prosthetics can't really replicate a knee. So we would all try and learn to walk together. So you could have guys in that group who were ready to be discharged, maybe 2 years post-injury, who were brilliant on the prosthetics, And then you could have guys like myself who were at the very start, who would be on tiny little legs called stubbies, which were literally feet on the end of your like stumps. And everybody would just move along. So the good guys would help the weaker guys. If you were on the same sort of level, you would push each other on. And we had the best physios in the whole world there, really. And they take no shit, these physios. Take no shit. At no point was it ever a question that I would walk. That's why I always love about them. It wasn't, oh, we'll see how we go. And you know, you need to be walking at this point, Mickey, because this is what we're doing for rehab. The next physio planned in 3 weeks is this, so you need to get your arse in gear. You know what I mean? When you're not on physio lessons, I need you walking. I need you walking. Don't matter how much pain it is. And that's how you pushed everybody on, because you wanted to be on the same level as your mate. You wanted to be on the level of the guy going to the cinema at night instead of sitting in your bed lying because you're in so much pain just because you've maybe not done as much of the rehab as you could, because it's letting your body adapt to the pain, and it's a whole new level of pain trying to walk. You're not supposed to walk on the ends of your femurs, so you've got no kneecap, and they'll fold the skin over and fold whatever flesh that they've got left over to make a little bit of cushion at the because I'm transfemoral, so I'm through the femur. So they try and make a little bit of cushioning at the end of my femur, and then you have to start learning to bear weight through that. And it's a whole world of pain. I used to think my tattoos were quite painful, and you're like, that's pain. That we're getting welcome. We're getting introduced to what some real pain is here.
It does sound like, from what your descriptions, though, there was a camaraderie amongst the guys going through it all together. Are you all egged each other on?
Absolutely. And it was shocking. The banter was shocking.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Honestly. And it got us through it. But I tell you what, maybe thank God there wasn't too many iPhones back then, because it was squaddy humour that got us through that. And it was as dark as you can imagine, because it had to be. Because I didn't give a shit about a single amputee. I don't want to hear about a single amputee whinging to me, because I'm a double amp. Come into my world and you'll know what it's like. But if you're a single amputee, you just think about this in the pub. That's a big fucking deal. It's a lot of pain, and it's changed your life a huge amount. But when you're at Headley Court, a triple amputee didn't want to hear me whinging. And they'd tell me, shut up, you're only a double amputee. Where does that ever make sense? You're always fucking whinging. You're only a double. And you're like, maybe you're right. So it was harsh. I think the physios sometimes would cover their ears up when we were really going at it. But it got us through it, man. And everybody walked, listen, and no one done anything stupid or something that they might have regretted, because both mentally and physically we were there for each other. We were harsh with the banter. It was really tough, but you know what, when a lad needed it, we were there, and we just got through it. Like, I know the people who were on my learning to walk with me, just like I know the people on P Company. So the people who I was on my parachute jumps course, which I would know probably till the day I die, I'll still know the people who learned to walk with me, because it was a 2-year course, and we were going from absolute the darkest place you could ever imagine, physically and mentally, to you're then going to that guy's wedding later on and partying with him, or you're going out in London and you've got prosthetics on, but who gives a shit? Because both of you are looking at each other going, man, can you remember when you were an absolute maggot and you were crying because you couldn't walk? And that was the kind of banter it is. And they go, oh, yeah. I remember when you couldn't go down a hill because you're crap on your legs. And then everybody listening goes, oh, you can't say that. And you say, oh, you can, because we were there and we've done it. So if you don't like it, just cover your ears.
So even though at this stage it sounds like you were physically improving, you were learning to walk again, how were you psychologically? mean, what was going through your head late at night?
I always think if you keep yourself busy, that helps. Night times, when you're getting a bit quiet and you're relaxing, your mind will definitely drift. And sometimes I always, well, what else has it got to drift to? Because when you're in hospital or you're in the rehabs, so Headley Court was like a big hospital, really. I was there for 2 years. And when you're in there, all you're doing is learning to walk. But on your dark days, sometimes it just, with PTSD, you will file a trauma, a major trauma, you'll file it where it files. It goes in the filing cabinet where it goes. And if it's 5 rows back, it's 5 rows back. And those 5 rows might enable you to crack on for a while. But guess what? It nudges itself forward. Sometimes it can go 20 rows back, and that could be 20 years. It's going to come back at some point, and you're going to have to deal with it. And every so often, sort of like getting chased by, these 80s horror movies where you can't get away for the bad guy chasing you. And you're like, fuck, I'm just having a few bad days here. Let's just settle to where we need to be. Because I don't need to be recalling what happened in Afghan. I don't need to be having these nightmares again. I don't need to be getting a bit anxious. So let's just chuck it back, see if we can throw it back 15 rows. And then as it moves forward, maybe we'll be in a better place the next time. So mentally, it was really tough. And I just think it's going to be constant. I think some people struggle more than others. And that doesn't mean anything to do about weakness or toughness. It just means sometimes that it might be, every time they knock it back, it might only go back 2 rows. So it's always there, and they're never getting a break. And I certainly, when I have my bad days, if I wasn't having a break, I would need a lot more help than I did at the beginning. But I keep myself busy, and it was a reason I got into sport, because I had nothing else to think about. I was only ever thinking about learning to walk, when my next surgery was, when I would go back to Headley Court, when could I walk again after my surgery. And do you know, after about 9, 12 months of that, I was getting to a position where I could get back to the gym. And I thought, I need to train again, because physically take away all the injuries, the medication was making me just really unfit. I put loads of weight on. So on top of everything, I'm feeling really down about myself. And I thought, well, there's guys similar injuries to me, and they're training. They're training. They're doing what they can. So I just decided, right, let's go and see how strong we can get. Who's the strongest guy who's disabled in Britain? Right, let's have a look at this dude. Let's Google him, find out who he is. Right, let's go. Let's get strong. And I started getting stronger and stronger, still within my military group, and it started taking my mind off. And I actually started delaying my surgeries. So I'd go to my surgeon, I can't let you operate on me then, because I'm going to enter a competition. So you need to delay that.
I think I'm right to say, Micky, that you entered powerlifting competitions. Is that the correct term?
Yeah, powerlifting. So I used to do powerlifting before it, which is squat, deadlift, and bench press. So I never thought I could ever get back to that. But then eventually, after getting stronger in the gym, I thought I was strong, but I'll say stronger. I realised that there was Paralympic powerlifting, which was just the bench press discipline, which obviously, if you were able-bodied, you use your legs to stabilise yourself. There was no legs, so it was just, you just get strapped down to the bench, and actually all your stabilisation had to come from your back and your arms. So it was actually harder than what it was before. So I thought, right, this is powerlifting. I'm the strongest guy at Headley Court that's disabled. So let's go. I'll enter this competition, and I should break some world record or something, because I'm Micky Yule and I'm strong. And I went up there. And now that I'm in the GB team, we'll do this to some of the young kids turning up now. They'll come in and they'll think they're strong, and we will send them away. They can't even, they wouldn't be able to wash their hair for a week because they can't lift their arms up. So I went in there, I think I was benching about 130 Ks, and I'm looking to the right of me, and there's a guy who's probably about 55 Ks body weight, benching 180. I'm looking to the left of me, and there's a guy who's about 90 Ks benching 200 or something. And I thought, I am in trouble here. And I've just volunteered here as bringing myself up as Big Micky Yule. And I started training, and we done a little couple of lifts. And I remember the coach didn't even select me. So it was a talent ID day. They were just identifying the next guys coming through. We do it now. And I left, and he just says, yeah, go away, mate. Keep training. We'll phone you. Don't phone us. And I left there. And you know, it was the best thing that could happen to me, because I turned up with the wrong attitude. And I still had the attitude which we mentioned before, where I didn't appreciate just what disabled athletes were all about and the potential they had. So just because I was an injured soldier in a wheelchair, I thought I was going to be the strongest guy in Britain. And I left there realising that these are proper athletes, and you better get your arse in gear, son, if you want to do anything with this team. Drop the attitude about looking down on people with disabilities and just take it as strength athletes. If you want to be anywhere near them, double your training and don't open your mouth again until you can press a decent weight. And eventually I went back and got selected through the system. But it was a massive wake-up call, and it was a good slap in the face that I needed, because I hadn't been introduced more to the wider world of disabilities, and it gave me that exposure to go, there's a lot of opportunities here, but you're not going to get nothing for free. Just because you've got your legs blown off, you're not getting in the Paralympics team. These are still people who have worked 10, 20 years to be where they are, and they're at the top of their game, and there's no free invites to anything. So it was really good for me.
Your injuries you suffered, did that make you a more compassionate person?
I think absolutely. I think that we were so they say things like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Yeah. Now, I joined the army when I was 16, went and done basic training at 17, was doing P company and jumping out airplanes at 18. That's your friends and your social group. You know how tight-knit we were? Jesus, we were ridiculous. People are writing books about us. So we were our own little team, man, and we certainly didn't let, no one left, but no one got in. It was hard to get into that clique. And you just think, come on, man, I'm better than that. You know, and there's more stuff going on. But when you're in it, you can't see. You can't see it because you're in it, and you need to just spread your wings and go, there's more stuff going on in this world than what you can see at the moment. And again, with it, when you're in the military, or especially in the army, what we done, you couldn't join if you were disabled. So I had no exposure to disabled people or anybody with disabilities. And it wasn't until I got injured that I started seeing the opportunities, and I just seen some of these superstars on what they were actually doing. And you think, man, I've been a bit of a dick for a while. Do you know what I mean? Not like against disability, but just not even making an effort to see what everybody else are doing. Just not opening myself up mentally to go, like I'd never watched Paralympics. So I was trying to qualify for Paralympics, and I never watched one. And now I think that's crazy, because I watched some of these superstars, but I just never, because it just wasn't on my radar, wasn't within my social group. So it wasn't there for me to be involved in.
So it's 12 years now since your injury, Micky. What's your life like now, and what have you achieved with your, the powerlifting and the weightlifting since you discovered it, if that's the right way of putting it?
Yeah, no, well, the first big opportunity I had was I had the chance to qualify for the Glasgow Commonwealth Games, which were massive for me because it was my first big games. Obviously I'm for Edinburgh, but home games basically, and qualified and came fourth, and actually probably should have medalled that day. I've got a real bloody thing with the Commonwealth Games. I keep on coming fourth. It's driving me mad. They're in Birmingham next year, so if I finish fourth, then honestly, that'll be the end of it. I'll be leaving my lifting wraps on the bench that day for sure if I come fourth again. But it gave me that opportunity to go. You might be disabled, but this is where you are now. But it's all here for you if you want it and you're prepared to work hard. We set ourselves our goals to try and qualify to go to the Rio Paralympics. Slightly different selection process. It's only the top 8 in the world go. I could be the strongest guy in Great Britain, but you don't get an automatic selection. So once you start thinking about these crazy strong countries like Russia, China, Poland, some of the Arab countries, America, that 8 something gets really tight really quickly. But managed to qualify and went to Rio and just seen and tasted and smelt and just got all of these experiences and just took it all in for what it was. It was quite unbelievable, but I deserved it because I worked hard for it. And then it was just at the international stage, done the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, obviously came fourth again. And now in deep qualification to go to Tokyo. Again, it's only the top 8 in the world go. I'm sitting 9th at the moment just because of lockdown and everything. I go to Dubai in 4 weeks and have to get in that top 8. No one cares that the whole world's been shut down with COVID. I'm sitting 9th in the world. I need to be 8th. So that's the goal. I'll need to bench press about, I would think, over 190 Ks to get into that top 8. And that's what the level we're at of these people. So it's all there for me. I've got to work hard. I've got 4 big weeks. Just the same when we're in the boxing team. I feel like since I've been 19 years old, I've been making weight. I'm 43 this year, but I have to make weight again. I absolutely cannot to kick this making weight in a touch. I've got about 2K to shift, which is just I feel like no matter what weight I say I'm going to either fight at or compete at, I've always got 2K to shift. It's just, why can you never go, I'm on weight? It's just never happened. I say to a lot of my friends, the only day I'm on weight, the only time I'm on weight is probably 5 minutes before a weigh-in. I says, I won't be on weight before it. If I'm on weight before it, then I'm sort of, well, why would I'm not weighing in 5 minutes before it. I'll be on weight when I'm on weight. So I've got that 2K to shift, keep my strength up, and then go and perform and get that second Paralympics. No matter what it looks like, I know it's going to be different with the bubbles and no crowd in Tokyo and this, that, and the other. But it's a highlight year of my sport. I mean, and it's not to be taken lightly, and it'll be another fantastic achievement if I can get there.
And you also took part in a documentary with the well, I'll leave you describe. I mean,
yes.
If you think Micky's life has been crazy enough up until now, maybe go on, Micky, just tell everyone what this documentary was about.
Well, do you know what happened? I come back from Tokyo, and actually nothing happens for about a year after the Paralympics. Slightly different this year because it's delayed, but then because you're waiting on a funding increase, or you're waiting to know how much funding you'll get for the next 4-year cycle. Every sport's ran out of money because the Paralympics were in the August, and we don't get money until May. So the performance director was like, keep training, but there's no training camps or nothing for 9 months. We'll keep in touch, but just do what you want. I then got approached by a TV documentary team, and we had done what you might class as the Summer Paralympics. Now the Winter Paralympics were coming up, and they had discovered that paraskeleton, the skeleton, which you go face first basically on a bacon tray down the steepest sliding track you can imagine.
It's like a toboggan run, isn't it? You go down on the
yeah, head first, no brakes. they realised that they were, it wasn't part of the Paralympics, and it was deemed as being a little bit too dangerous, just because the truth is people died, didn't it? And they wanted to get the fastest guy at the time, who was a Latvian guy. He was like the Usain Bolt of skeleton. And they wanted to, by using means of engineering, and find a para athlete, and they were going to take him on in the fastest track in the world, which is a track called Whistler in Vancouver in Canada, which is the most beautiful place you'll ever see in your life. It's like a really big Scotland, just gorgeous. You drive up from, you can drive up from Seattle, and you go up that coast, and it's just like Jurassic Park. It's unbelievable. So anyway, I went for a casting for it, and as you can imagine, I've never done any acting, so I was really worried about how this was going. I just didn't want to look like an idiot, and I spoke to the director, and I says, I'm not, because there was a lot of people there that wanted the gig, and they looked a bit more, I don't know, flamboyant, you know, that type, so a bit more actressy,
more reality star, was it?
Yeah, and you know, and I'm thinking, come on, man, the lads are going to kill you here. What are you doing? And the director went, he goes, Mickey, no, you're not going to make you look stupid. It's reactive. I'm going to put you in situations, and we're going to record and video your reaction. And I went, what? There's no script of that. And he went, no. He goes, do you want a script? And I goes, no, I can't remember the words. Don't put me in a situation where I need, because I won't do it, and I'll look terrible. Anyway, we went through the day, and he come up to me, and I thought he was going to tell me to go home. He said, I want you to stay next day and day. You and 2 or 3 lads, we've got to make a decision on. And anyway, a couple of weeks later, he phoned me up, and he goes, we'd love you to take part. And there was me and another couple of other guys, both with disabilities. One was going to engineer it, and one was going to sort of plan it. And I was going to be the idiot who threw down. I was going to be the mug, right, who didn't get enough money to get thrown down the track. So we went there, and I must admit, the director, they weren't always telling us what was going on, which is probably a good thing. Well, they couldn't, because they wanted it to be reactive. So we went and done a training like camp in Austria, and supposedly like the baby track, the slow track, and I had a nightmare. I was banging my head. I felt like I had about 3 concussions. One time I felt like I was unconscious at the end of the run. I thought, what kind of this? There's a reason why this sport's not in the bloody Paralympics. It's because it's a stupid sport. What the hell is going on? But it wasn't that fast, and I thought, well, I'm hurting myself, but at least it's not that fast. And I'd done 6 runs there, and then we got back and we done a lot of filming in and around it. And then the director says, we're going to go to Canada. And we're going to do the final part over there, because the Latvian guys agreed to race you. And I went, what, after those 6 runs? I says, well, we do some training back here. And they went, no, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. I couldn't believe that. I just thought it was all going to go to rubbish. Flew over to Canada, and we were driving up to the track, and it was getting steeper and steeper. And I was thinking, where's this bloody track? But skeleton tracks go through the woods. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They sort of disappear into the woods, and you only ever see the start and the end of them, really. And we got to the top, and my coach was a lad called Kristen Bromley, and he's actually his wife Shelley. Both of them like skeleton athletes. Shelley had actually won a skeleton Olympic medal, and I could see a little bit of doubt in their mind. Now, I felt like their child. They were filling me with confidence the whole time. Way more confidence than I had in my own ability. Kristen was actually developing the sled that was going to fit me, because I was the complete wrong design for a skeleton athlete, and I had no legs, so it was completely the wrong weight dispersal. And he goes, this is the track, Mickey. It's the fastest track in the world. He says, I actually think I'm going to go and speak to the director. I went, oh, great. Shit, here we go. And then they come back, and they had these 2 what I could only describe as little jet rockets. I says, what are they for? And he says, they're going to strap these to your stumps, and they're going to fire you down the track. And I says, are they fuck? I says, no one's talked about attaching rockets. What are you going on about? I'll catch fire. No, they're electric. We've got the guys from Williams Formula E team to design it. And I thought, this has been going on for ages if they're designing it. And Kristen went, oh yeah, I went up and helped them design it. And I went, oh, bloody, here we go. And then they sent over the health and safety guys from the Discovery Channel. And he turned up and gave us a brief. And I went, everybody's bloody turning up now. What is going on? And then they attached these rockets to me. And I fired, you have to keep your hands behind you. And I had a little trigger, and I pulled the trigger, and I went, woof. I took off. And the first time, I just, on a skeleton track, you've got to stay in it. Everything outside the skeleton track is static. If you come out of that track for any reason, you're in a bad situation. You're surrounded by woods or concrete. And Kristen, the coach, said, "There's like if you come out the track, it's not going to be great because you've got rockets attached to your legs, and these are going to splinter and shrapnel." I was like, I've been here before, I think. Can I just check how much I'm getting paid? Right, okay, not enough. And he went, however, it'll be all right as long as you don't come out and make a balls up of this one specific corner. And it was the start of the Olympic corner, the big showpiece one, the biggest G-force. It's the one that pins your head to the ice, fastest entry. And I was like, right. So that's the only corner I'm thinking of now. Even when he pushes me off at the start, even when I fire off the thing, I'm 10 corners away from it, and I'm already shiting myself about this corner. So what happens? I completely mess it up. Now, Kristen said to me, he goes, if you go this high on the wall, you won't recover it, mate. You're just going to have to tuck up and accept what's coming. And I remember getting to that point, and I was like, I can bring this back. I can bring this back. And I used all my strength to slam it into the gutter. And I just about knocked myself out. We got to the end of it, and he went, mate, are you all right? And I went, yeah, mate. I don't know if we can do that again. And that's cool. He goes, because you've only got one more run to go, and it's in 20 minutes. I says, Kristen, come on. I felt like I was in the corner, and you're second saying, have you got another round? I'm like, are we sure? And I always remember he goes, have a banana, mate. And I ate the banana. And and it was just to take your mind off it. And now I look back and think, so I ate the banana, and he was like, you all right? And I was like, I'm all right now, I think. Maybe this is sorting me out. But I had it. And I had a heart rate monitor attached to me. And I always remember this. So the health and safety guy, what they wanted, do you know, at the start, boom, 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 get the old graphics in with my heart rate going. And my heart rate was going about 100. I wasn't even on the run yet, and it was probably on about 180. And I remember the health and safety guy shouting, "Has Micky got the heart rate monitor on?" Because he was the one guy that could pull it. In fact, the health and safety could pull it. The director, if they never had the cameras set up, because we couldn't waste a run. And Kristen could pull it, but he was never going to pull it. He was hard coach. I mean, I don't know what I would have to have done for him to pull it. And I remember them taking off the heart rate monitor. And I went, I thought you needed that on. And he went, nah, mate. He goes, you need that off. He goes, because your heart rate is racing. I says, I'm shiting myself, mate. He says, I am shiting myself. And he went, just go, man. He goes, that corner, Micky. And then that was the one that they recorded, and I took off. And I swear I went into this haze of going down the track, and I seen this big scary monster coming, which was this corner. I think we took it about 130 Ks. And for some reason, I went round it like an absolute dream on these rockets. I don't know why. I felt like it. Maybe God had decided that, right, I gave you a little bit of pain in Afghan. I'm going to give you a little bit of pleasure today. And I went round it. And what I didn't see until I watched the video is how much Kristen and the other lads at the top celebrated because he knew that it was absolute touch and go if I was going to come out of there. So we then got to the end, but they had brought the whole of Whistler, the whole town had turned up because it was the end of season. They were closing the track. We had only kept the track open for that event. The guy I was racing was one of their superstars, and they wanted to see this big lump with no legs go down the track. And the mayor came over and she read out the times. And then to my complete astonishment, I had beat his fastest time. And he was absolutely gutted. I remember it. He didn't even come out that night for a drink. And I said, is this just for the TV? And Kristen went, you bet his time, mate. You went faster than what we thought. We went faster than what we had planned for you to go. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember after, he goes, will you ever do skeleton again, Micky? I said, I am done. I got blown up in Afghan and I've just about died here. That's the 2 occasions of my life that I've just about died. I says, that's it, I'm done. But talk about coming out your comfort zone. And it really just gave me a sense of pride that maybe there's other stuff still to go. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I can't just box myself off as being a powerlifter. There's other things out there, and like anything, if you're willing to give it a try, and most importantly, if you surround yourself with good people like I had, that even when they're in doubt, will give you confidence, so you've got no doubt. Because I'm sure if Kristen had told me everything he was feeling, then I would never have went down on that last go. But just surrounding yourself with the right people, and you can achieve these crazy and monumental things.
Yeah, is that documentary still available to watch, Micky? Do you know?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Ice Warrior.
Ice Warrior.
That's what it was called. Yeah, Ice Warrior. It'll be somewhere. It'll be one of these things that turn up.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story quickly, because we only got about 10 minutes left. Like, I told my daughter about your story, and I just saying about squaddies using a bit of black humor to get through, tricky times and tricky moments. Yeah. And she was, okay. She took that all on board. And then I said to her, I'm watching a documentary about Micky on television tonight. And she's like, all right, great. So she sat down to watch the documentary, and she was saying, so she was only young at the time, maybe 7 or 8. So where's this Micky? I said, he's there, the Scottish guy with the tattoos. I said, you said black humor, he's white. I was like, well, so she was expecting a black guy, and then there's you.
Oh, man.
I remember the documentary is brilliant, the way he was filmed as well. And but that must have given you, as you already said, really, like a massive psychological boost, because you went from like a paratrooper, a bomb disposal expert, or a big guy, a powerful guy, before going to Afghanistan. Then you came back like a physically broken guy, and obviously in a tough mental place. So this must be a massive like mental boost as well to you to do this absolutely crazy thing, being sent down this track on rockets, basically.
Yeah, no, and I think in the skeleton itself can actually be anything. It can be anything. It's taking that phone call from the director and go, I'll give it a go. The minute you say you'll give it a go, you're only probably, and it's a bit cheesy, even if it doesn't go well, you're only going to learn from it. Even if the director had said on the very first day, Micky, I need more flamboyance. You know what I mean? I need some more razzmatazz. You're not bringing anything. You're like a miserable Scotsman. I would have gone, yeah, cool. It is what it is. But just, and it's actually putting yourself out there. Putting yourself out there to fail. You'll be surprised how many times you succeed, actually. That's one thing I have learned on this journey of just putting myself in these situations with the legs and then powerlifting and then some of that TV work that, you know what I mean? It is what it is, but.
So are you available for any more TV slots? If there's any?
I've gave it up, mate. I'm telling you,
we can't expect to see you with the showbiz columns of the
I want normality. I want normality. That's what I want. I feel like that, that you can get so busy and sort of chaotic that you just go, nah, just give me that 9 to 5, man. Because like we've gone to Dubai in 4 weeks, it's still on the red list. I'm sitting at the moment, I'm coming back into a hotel in Heathrow for 10 days until we can get out. I'm praying. I know there's big stuff going on, but Boris, please, mate, even put it on amber so I can isolate at home. But yeah, I'm still here. The injuries are the injuries. What we're going to do, we've got to crack on it. That's what we do. So I just get my head down, and whatever comes next will come. As long as I keep on attacking it, I'll be all right.
Okay then, mate. On that positive note, I think we'll end things. It's been brilliant to talk to you. Just I know you're on Twitter. Do you want to give just a mention if people want to follow your career and your progress?
Just Micky Yule 9 and Micky Yule on Instagram. That's it. I mostly just put up stuff about training and maybe the kids and that. But yeah, big couple of months ahead for me. If you wanted to see anything, especially if I do qualify, I'll be able to give quite an insight into what it looks like in Tokyo in this athletes bubble or whatever we've got ahead of us. But yeah, just follow me there. I'll follow you back, definitely. And
I think I'm right in saying as well, you do speaking engagements as well?
I do. Less and less now, more, well, all on Zoom, but I do. I find it quite therapeutic, actually. And a good sense, especially if people will understand that they can actually, no matter where they are, if they put their head down and surround themselves with good people, they can achieve some stuff no matter what that is or where they are in life. So definitely, if I need to do any speaking engagements, I hope to bring that to the audience.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Micky. I'm sure everyone who watches this and listens to your story will find it inspiring, and I'm sure they'll all get something from it on just your outlook on life, because a lot of people, in your situation could have gone the other direction, but you, like you said, you've tackled it head on, and it's inspiring. It's brilliant to see what you've done with your life.
Cheers, pal. Brilliant. It's been good to speak to you, mate.
You're listening to Straight to the Point Uncut.